Hi everyone! Today we are launching our new webinar series where we host different specialists to explore the world of fencing from the inside, the preparation, the mindset, and that elusive state of flow where athletes can perform at their best. We are kicking things off with a sports psychologist. Today I'm joined with Zoya Zackavec, founder of the Fencing Mentor. Zoya is a former NCAA Division I fencer, a University of Pennsylvania graduate, a two-time US national champion, and an NCAA championships qualifier. She is also a licensed clinical social worker with a more than 12 years of experience in the mental health field. Today, Zoya works with competitive fencers across US and internationally, helping them build confidence, regulate their emotions, recover from mistakes, and perform under pressure. So let's get started. Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar. Today we are diving deep into the mental side of fencing. We all know that fencing is physically demanding, but it is often called physical chess because the real battle happens inside our heads. And today we have a sports psychologist with us to unpack the most common mental blocks that fencer faces. So let's get started. And the first block I want to discuss it's performance gap and opponent dynamics. And the first question is, it's about practice versus tournament. So let's kick off with the classical paradox that almost every fencer experiences: dominating during club sparring or training, but freezing the moment you step onto the competition piste. So why do I fence better in practice than in tournaments?
Sure. Yes. Hi, Eugene. Okay. So great question. And I get this asked so much. Definitely worth to talk about and to understand. So essentially, why the difference? Because if you think about it, practice and competition are different environments. And if you think about the environment at practice, it's very free. There's no consequences. There's no rankings, no pressure, essentially no fear of failure. And so it's this freeness, right? With you could fence, there's no outcome attached. Now, in competition, outcome suddenly matters. Results matter. It means something. And so what ends up happening is that, it's where our attention goes. So the problem in competitions isn't skill, it's attention. So why do fencers fence differently in competition? Why do they have such a hard time? Because when that pressure sets in, when the realization hits that, okay, outcome matters, there are results, there are expectations here, suddenly a fencer's attention now shifts to those things, to winning, losing, right? Rankings, expectations, results. And that undoubtedly affects their fencing. The irony is that their skills are still there, right? They're still the same fencer. It's not like they forgot how to fence going from practice to tournaments. But what shifted is what they're focusing on. In practice, they're focusing on their actions. They're focusing on what they're supposed to be doing. All of a sudden, they go to competition and their attention is now on winning, scores, results, medals, right? The way that I recommend counteracting that is to learn how to control your attention, learn where your attention goes. So instead of focusing on the results, the outcomes, right? The pressure, the expectations, shift your attention to what is actually going to help you fence your best, which is focusing on your distance, your timing, your actions, this touch right here in front of you, focusing, staying present for this touch. That's my biggest advice in terms of if you want to be able to fence the same way you do in practice, in competition, learn to manage your attention and learn to bring that attention back to yourself, to your fencing, your actions on strip, and not focus and give your attention to all the other things that come with tournament, with a competition environment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it's a good advice to focus on the process, not on the I need to win this medal,
Yeah.
to focus on the process. And I think it's also, how can we simulate this pressure, this competition pressure on our trainings?
That's a good question. It's tough because there's nothing like the pressure of a real competition. It's kind of hard to really bring that to life in practice. You can practice intentionally though in training is your ability to stay focused and present in the moment on strip, on what you're doing. I actually have a tool for this that I could recommend, which I call the strip bubble tool. And basically I teach this to a lot of my fencers where I ask them to imagine this bubble around them and their opponent and the strip that they're on. And basically everything that's inside the bubble that belongs inside are all the things that you should be focusing on, which is your footwork, your actions, trusting yourself, fencing the next touch, staying focused, staying present. All of those things matter and they help you fence your best. Now, everything else that will not help you, things like pressure, worrying about the score, the results, bad referee calls, all of those things belong outside the bubble. To answer your question, how can we simulate that? Well, it's hard to recreate the pressure of a competition in practice. However, what you can do is train yourself to stay focused on being inside this bubble and paying attention to the things that will help you fence your best, which, like I said, are things like your actions, your timing, your distance, your footwork, your ability to stay present for every single touch. If you can master that, then when you go to the tournament, you just have to make sure that you stay on that course, stay inside that bubble, and focus on the things that are in that bubble with you.
That's great. But if you talk about this bubble, we have 1 minute break in 2 or 3 periods in fencing. How to focus and find my center during this break, like how to change the momentum of the boat. For example, if I'm losing, I have 1 minute break and I need to overcome myself and I need to change this momentum to start gaining more points.
Sure.
Is there a specific exercises maybe or focusing stuff?
Sure. Yes, absolutely. Great question. So I call it the reset tool, the reset button, I call it. And I designed it specifically for this purpose is because we all have moments, right? Where we're losing and we start panicking or the opponent scores a few touches in a row and, you need to be able to break that momentum. So what do you do? So it's 3 steps. Okay. The first step is you have to regulate your nervous system, because if the more that you start panicking, the more that you start getting worried and feeling that anxiety rising, the harder it will be for you to fence well, because then you'll start rushing, forcing actions. So the most important thing, the first thing you have to do is you have to calm your nervous system. You have to bring that anxiety level. How do you do that? You do that through breath work. And the best way that I recommend is doing an inhale through the nose and then a long exhale through the mouth, making sure that the exhale is twice as long as the inhale. Why is that important? Because when we do a longer exhale than inhale, so I'll demonstrate. It's literally just like that. Okay. Mm-hmm. Why is that important and helpful? Because when we breathe that way, it sends a signal to our nervous system that we are safe, that essentially that we know that it's a way to calm ourselves. It's a way to speak to your body, to let your body know, I'm safe. There's no need to panic. It's okay. You could bring the anxiety down. So that long breath will allow that anxiety to reduce. That's step 1. Very, very important. If you don't do that, the nervous system is going to keep you in that high alert state, which is not going to help. So first, calm your nervous system. Second is bring your attention to the present moment. You have to get out of your head and back to your body, back to the present moment. Fencing happens in the present. It happens like this touch right here. And so the longer that we think about, oh man, that mistake that just happened, right? Or all the touches that the opponent scored, or the fact that I'm losing, the more that we stay in our head and we start, spinning those thoughts, the more that we're not in the present, the more that we're not able to focus on what matters, which is the next touch. So being able to bring yourself back to the present is step 2, very, very important. The way you do that is through grounding. So the way I recommend is connect to your body through the sense of touch. So notice what can you feel? Feel the strip under your feet. Push your shoes, your feet into the strip, be present with your body, and then feel your blade in your hand. So when I reset, I do the breath and then I'll hold my foil. I'll feel my foil in my hand. I'll squeeze it a little bit and then I'll push my feet into the strip. And that allows me to be present, to snap out of my head back to my body. I'm here. Okay, I'm here. So then you bring your attention to the present moment. And then step 3 is I recommend creating some sort of a mental cue phrase or a cue word. For example, for me, it's next touch. So then I'll say that in my head. I'll say next touch. And that helps to redirect my focus onto the next touch, which is the only thing that matters. So it's a way to regulate yourself, bring your attention back to the present and refocus on the next touch. So to answer your question, in between breaks, if you want to break that momentum, reset, run the reset, and it'll help you to re-regulate, reground yourself, right? Bring yourself back to the present and focus on the next touch. And it takes practice. The big thing about this is the more that you do it, the easier it becomes and the more automatic it becomes, but you do need to practice it. And the more you do it, the more you'll notice how you're able to, snap out of it, basically break the momentum, recenter, regroup yourself, and refocus on what matters, which is the next touch, the next action.
Oh, this is cool. But I used to use some sort of this focusing stuff. I saw it, Djokovic in tennis.
Yeah.
Novak. He's doing like grab himself like this,
Uh-huh.
twisting his head and making from 5 to 10 fast inhales, and it really works for me.
You used to do that, or you
Yes,
do
I
that?
do. I do, yeah.
That's great. That's great. I mean, listen, I think there's many different ways that we could do this, right? But the importance is like you have to have some sort of a reset system or tool that like something that you do to break the momentum to help yourself come back to the present, to redirect that focus. So, I mean, if that works for you, that's great. My reset is just something that I designed that I recommend, but you could always tweak it to whatever feels most natural to you.
That's great. Great. Okay, let's talk about the ultimate pressure moment. It's like 14-14 or priority minute when the one light decides the whole tournament. How do I stop thinking about the score during the bout? And
Yeah.
how do I keep my composure at this sudden death minute?
I know, right? It's like it's a $1 million question. Gosh, those 14-14 moments. Okay, so how can you handle it? The thing is you don't, it's not about stopping and it's not about having to stop thinking about the score. It's stopping making the score mean something. That's what adds to that pressure, right? Because 14-14, it's like make it or break it, right? This is the end all. And so why do so many fencers crumble at that last moment is because the pressure of the meaning of 14-14 suddenly becomes overwhelming. So they crumble under that pressure. So one of the ways is train your mind that 14-14 isn't special. It's just the next touch. It's just another touch. So the way I see it is the fencer who wins at 14-14 is usually the one who treats it like it's 3-3 or 2-2, or 11-11. So the tool that I have for that is 14-14, like a start over rule. So instead of thinking about like, oh no, I have to win this, right? Like I need to get this touch or I can't lose, oh my gosh, right? It's 14-14. Bring your attention to what's my next action? What is my next action? What am I about to commit to? That's it. And what I have found in my experience in watching many, one-touch bouts and talking to so many fencers about this is the fencer usually that wins at 14-14 or 4-4, those one-touch bouts is the one who decides on his action or her action and commits to it more than their opponent. That's it. So it's not so much about like worrying about the score, focusing on the fact that it's 14-14. It's just focusing on the fact that you just need to score the next touch, being decisive about the action you're about to do and committing to that action with all your might. That's it. And and trusting yourself enough to believe that as long as you execute this action with commitment and confidence, that you will be able to score this touch. That's it. That's what it comes down to. So like truly often, I mean, at 14-14, both fencers are good at that point, right? Like you both got it to 14-14. So that means you're both capable. You both have the skills. So it's not even about who's smarter, who's faster. At that point, you're both good. At what I really believe matters in that moment is which fencer trusts themselves more, which one can decide and commit to their action more than the other one. That's what I think is important. And so if you want to get better at 14-14, I recommend train in practice, like start bouts 14-14, like practice with your teammates. Like let's pretend like simulation. Let's pretend it's 14-14 and then practice intentionally in that moment as though it's already 14-14. Practice deciding your action, committing to it, and then executing with full commitment that one action that you picked and see how that feels. And the more that you do that, the more that you train your ability to decide and commit, the easier it will become. And, truly at the end of it too is stop attaching so much meaning to 14-14 because that only messes with your head more, right? That only adds more pressure. So stop making the score mean something. Just focus on, I just need to get this next touch. And what do I need to do to get this next touch? What's my action? And what am I committing to? Does that help?
It's cool. Yeah, I think it should work in this intentional moment. Let's move from the internal pressure to external. Sometimes the heaviest weight on the athlete's shoulders isn't the facing your opponent. It's about the expectations from the coach, from your team, from the club, from your nation. How to overcome this? How do I handle this?
Sure, absolutely. Well, here's the truth. They will always be there, like expectations, the pressure, nerves. It's not about eliminating those things because those things are going to be there. It's about what you're going to choose to give your attention to. Again, this is where the concept of the bubble is helpful, especially when fencers go to tournaments. In fact, all my athletes that I've been coaching right now who are going to summer national championships next week, I've purposely made them all make a list of all the things that they will allow inside that bubble with them and all the things that they don't want to focus on that are going to be outside that bubble. And so things like expectations, fear, anxiety, right? Pressure, nerves, all those things are outside the bubble, meaning that they're intentionally going to choose not to focus on those, not to fixate on those. And anytime their mind tries to worry about, expectations, you bring your attention right back to what's inside my bubble. What did I promise myself that I would focus on at the tournament? And again, that comes back to things like focusing on the next touch, staying present, resetting, like using that reset tool to stay calm, to stay present, to stay regulated, committing to every action, focusing on their footwork, their blade work, right? Being fully present. The goal is not to eliminate pressure because it's impossible. Like, in fact, that's part of competition. You're nervous because it means something, because you care, right? So it's okay to feel nervous. It's okay to feel the pressure because it means you care. This means something to you. But then what it comes down to is, can you still bring your focus to what is in your control? Because you can't control other people. You can't control expectations, outcomes, result. You can't control that. What you can control is what you focus on. And so can you bring that attention and focus back to yourself, back to focusing on what you need to do on strip, this bout, this touch, this action? And so the more that you focus on, one of my heroes is Bruce Lee. Okay. I love Bruce Lee. I love his philosophies. I love all the things that he said. And so two things that he would say that have resonated with me is, one is that mistakes happen when the mind leaves the moment. Okay. And I really believe that. Like, the moment your mind leaves and goes somewhere else, starts thinking about this, that, or the other, and leaves the moment, that's where mistakes happen. And the second thing is, he would say, when you're overwhelmed, just bring your focus and attention to just one thing. Just focus on the one thing in front of you. That's it. Let everything else kind of fall away. And so that's really it. Like that's, I know it sounds simple, and yet it's not easy though to master this skill, but that's really the best advice that I could give is learn to manage where your attention goes. If you allow your mind to wander, to go and think about, oh man, coach expects me to do, my parents expect me to make top 8, or, coach needs me to do well, or man, I need to make this, I need to get this place. You start focusing on all of these things. And when your mind is focusing on all those things, it's not actually here. It's not present. It's not in the bout. And the thing that is in your control is how you fence in the bout, in each bout. And so if you want to get those results, if you want to, meet the expectations of your parents, your coach, it all starts with you being able to focus this bout, this touch. Fencing is one touch at a time. So you fence this touch, well, this touch, you win this bout, great. Move on to the next bout, right? It's one touch, one bout at a time, accumulated over the course of the tournament that will allow you to achieve the results and expectations that you're after. But you have to focus on what matters in front of you that will get you those things, instead of focusing on those things, hoping to get them without doing the work here in the moment that matters.
If to talk more about this external pressure, I don't know if it works in US, but in Ukraine, basically 3 of 4 national members in national team, fencing for them is their job. So do you agree with the statement that if you had a side job, a main side job, and the fencing for you is just a hobby, you are going to fence better because you mentally have the resources? I mean money. Regular job gives you money.
Yeah.
And you are not connected in this way with fencing. Is it true?
So there's a couple layers to this. Yes and no. Here's what I think. I definitely think the fencer who does it as a hobby obviously has less pressure attached because they're doing it because they want to. They're definitely going to feel more free naturally because it's not a necessity. It's not their source of income. It's just something that they do that they want to do. So definitely there's more freeness to that, less, pressure. And so naturally, I think that allows for better performance because that's true for any athlete. The less, the more free you could be, the better you'll perform. But on the other hand, the fencer who does this for a living, whose job it is. Obviously, they're dedicated to it. This is their whole life, right? They're working at it adamantly. And I really do believe that if those fencers that, even if it's their job, if they can master all of these skills that I'm talking about, right? The ability to focus on what you're supposed to tune out the external noise, right? To be able to kind of separate the pressure from their focus, right? Their bubble, and to stay, give their attention to what matters, to what helps them win. I think absolutely that they could still perform great, even if it's, even if they have more pressure on them, given that it's their job. It really comes down to really your self-mastery. Like, you could be, at the end of the day, you could have all sorts of circumstances and situations and factors, but it's like who you are as a person and how much can you master your ability, right? To stay with yourself. How much can you master your mind and your energy? I think it really comes down to who you are as a person. That, there could be a person whose job it is to fence, who might fall into that pressure trap. Whereas the fencer who does it for, as a side, as a hobby, they might do better. But then on the other hand, the fencer who really masters their ability to control their mind, they can absolutely succeed and perform better than anybody. So I think it really comes down to the person.
So let's move to another competition paradox.
Yeah.
Which I noticed so many times. Many competitive fencers confess that it's actually psychologically easier to face a master than like a beginner. Why is it harder to fence with a weaker opponent?
Yeah, great question. Because in that situation, why is it harder to fence a weaker opponent, or maybe like same level or weaker? Because in that moment, then it's a matter of identity. Then it like touches on who you are as a fencer. It affects your identity. So when you're fencing somebody stronger than you, you've got nothing to lose. Like, this person is stronger. So more often than not, you're going to try your best. You're going to try your hardest. You're going to give it all you've got because you have nothing to lose. You have nothing to protect. You just might as well go and fence your hardest. Now, when you're facing somebody weaker, now you have something to protect, right? You have your identity to protect, your own name, your own ranking, your own like reputation. Now, because if you lose to that weaker opponent, it now means something. It means something about you. And so that's why a lot of fencers, like this gets to their head. Like, I can't lose to this person, right? They're weaker than me. What would people think? It's going to be embarrassing. I can't. So then they start to fence, not to score, but they start fencing to protect their identity. And that's why it becomes harder to fence weaker opponents, because they're not fencing freely. They're not fencing to give it their all, right? Like to score. Like when you're fencing a stronger opponent, you're giving it your all. You're fencing to score points. Whereas when you're fencing a weaker opponent, you're fencing to protect yourself. You're fencing to protect your identity. In your head, I can't lose this bout. I have to win. But when you do that, you don't realize that you're actually putting even more pressure on yourself, which sends your nervous system into a state of survival. I call it survival mode, where your body, your brain, your nervous system thinks that you're under threat, right? Because if you tell yourself, I can't lose to this person, your brain goes, oh, if you lose to this person, something bad is going to happen. That means it's bad. So then what does your brain do? It then activates what I call survival mechanism, like a survival mode, which shuts down access to your normal fencing skills and turns on these survival skills, which makes you force your actions, rush, freeze, overthink, doubt yourself. And that's why a lot of times good fencers struggle against, weaker opponents, or even people of their own level, because they're no longer fencing to score, to execute. They're now fencing to survive this bout, to protect themselves, fencing not to lose. That's a completely different mental state than fencing to score when you're fencing somebody stronger. So basically, don't focus on the rankings, the ratings, the reputation. Like, you as a fencer, like when you develop a strong sense of identity, who you are, it shouldn't matter who's in front of you. Like, your fencing should not change based on who the opponent is, what their ranking is, what their reputation is. You should always show up as the same competitor that you are, right? The strong, confident competitor who believes in himself. Like, whatever you bring to this trip as a fencer, as a competitor, should always be the same, should always be consistent. You shouldn't change or be affected depending on who's in front of you. You should have so much trust in yourself as a fencer. You should have a strong sense of identity in yourself as a competitor, that you shouldn't be affected by who's in front of you. And in fact, the more that you focus on them and who they are, the more you're going to be affected, right? Instead, again, bring that focus and attention back to yourself. What kind of fencer, how am I going to show up in this bout? What kind of fencer do I want to be? How am I going to compete this bout, this strip, this touch? So kind of bringing that back to yourself.
And in continuation of this topic, it often happens that you losing to a specific type of a fencer or even a specific fencer. How to stop this loop of loses to a specific fencer? And also, if this fencer is from your club or your nation, why do I fence with him on trainings? Like I win him on training, but on the competition, I lose every time. How to stop overthinking maybe about this?
So I think, great question. I think it's because in those moments, like your mind starts to think that you basically start trying to solve the same problem the same way. We get stuck in thinking like, oh man, like I always lose to lefties, right? Like I always lose to lefties, or I always lose to short fencers, or I always lose to, aggressive fencers. Like we start kind of spinning this story, and then we start focusing that. So my recommendation is to be curious. So instead of saying to yourself, like, I always lose to left-handed fencers, ask instead, what specifically is this opponent doing that's creating problems for me? Get specific, get curious. And I mean, truly, because at the end of the day, some opponents might be similar. Yes, they might have similar styles, but everybody is different. Every fencer is different. And so instead of kind of generalizing it like, oh, I always lose to this kind of opponent. So maybe there's been a pattern of you maybe losing to lefties. Sure, that's fine. However, every single fencer is unique. And so instead of generalizing, I would just focus in on each opponent at a time and ask yourself, what specifically is this opponent doing, this one right here, that's creating problems for me? And then get specific, figure out the pattern, right? Because patterns can be solved, but it's a matter of getting more specific, more curious about what is this opponent doing that's creating problems for me, and then working through those problems, working through those, figuring out the pattern and working through that, training yourself in practice to overcome those things. But I would be very cautious to not generalize, right? Because then a lot of times fencers will get in these loops where they like tell themselves the same story, like, oh, I always lose to lefties, or I always lose to tall fencers. I can never beat short fencers. And that's dangerous because then it's like your mind believes what you tell it. So the more you repeat a story, the more that you'll believe it, right? The more that you'll like operate from that. So you go in to a bout and you see a lefty, you're like, oh man, here we go again. And you're already setting yourself up for failure because you're going into it with that mentality. So instead, I would just get very curious and opponent by opponent, break each one down and take a look. Maybe watch videos of yourself fencing that person and specifically focus on what is this person doing that's creating problems for me? What specifically? So get curious and get specific. That's my advice.
Thanks. Yeah. And you mentioned in your answer aggressive fencers. And it is also a problem for someone. So some fencers use screaming or maybe body language as a psychological weapon.
Sure.
How to control myself in this type of situation? Like, should I answer the same way or should I keep myself calm?
For sure. Great question. So no, I should absolutely keep yourself calm. Just because your opponent is emotional and trying to use that as a tactic does not mean that you have to join them. So usually, they're trying to win two bouts. They're trying to win the physical bout and the emotional bout. For me, my advice is don't enter the emotional bout. Don't try to enter that second one. Here's your tool. Reset. If your opponent is, being loud, obnoxious, aggressive, on purpose, they're obviously trying to mess with you. It's, not a desirable tactic, but nonetheless, it happens. My advice is obviously don't give in. Don't be tempted to join them. Reset yourself. So use that reset tool that I taught. As you're walking back to the on-guard line, between touches, take a deep breath, ground yourself. Focus your mind. Okay, what's my next action, my next touch? What am I going to do for my next touch? And return your attention to yourself and what you're going to do for the next action, for the next touch. But bottom line is, no, you don't want to join them. And you have to be able to stay calm despite that. Understand that, yes, they are going to try to use that to mess with you. But your power comes in. Are you going to let them mess with you doing that? Or are you going to be able to stay focused on yourself? So reset. Return your attention back to yourself, to your next action, period.
That's great.
It's not easy, but it's a skill that the more you practice it, the more automatic it becomes, and then it will help you. It is a skill worthy of mastering for sure.
So I also want to talk about the preparation for the fencing, for the tournaments. It used to happen to me when I can't sleep the night before the competition, or I can swallow a bite of food in the morning before the competition. So my stomach is in knots. I even used not to look for my pools the night before a competition because I saw these names and I'm starting overthinking. So I definitely gonna lose to him or to him. So how to overcome fear and anxiety before a competition or the night before a competition? What if I physically cannot drink or eat?
Yeah, no, great question. So, it happens to all of us, totally. I remember going to tournaments too, and I couldn't sleep the night before. My coach, my dad, who was my coach, he would always, get mad, like, go to sleep already. Let's go. Like, you have a tournament tomorrow. So here's the thing, anxiety, like feeling that anxiety, like I said before, in the nerves, like it's okay in a way because it means that you care, because this means something to you, right? So it's okay. Now, at the same time, is it important to learn how to manage it so that you can get good sleep and that you can feel your body the next day? Absolutely. So what would I recommend? Okay, so first, as far as looking at the pools, because I've actually been talking to a lot of my athletes about this, we have to be careful again, because when I get it, I remember the same thing I used to do. Like I'd look at the pool and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, I have so and so. I lost to her last time. She beat me. Oh my God, she's number one, right? And we start like our wheels start spinning. And it's not good because it's only going to make us more anxious, feel more pressure. So what I recommend is before you look at the pool, and again, having the mindset of like at the end of the day, it shouldn't matter who is in your pool because that shouldn't affect how you're going to fence, how you're going to show up. You should be focused on yourself as a competitor, like focusing on what kind of competitor do I want to be when I show up to this pool? Like you should be focusing on yourself above all instead of focusing on, the opponents that are in your pool. Because the more you focus on who they are, their names, rankings, reputations, you're just going to be psyching yourself out more, right? And then your attention again is leaving and going on the wrong things instead of coming back to yourself. You're giving your attention away to the wrong things. So what I recommend when you're looking at pools is before you actually open the pool sheet, I always say do a little ritual before. Prepare your nervous system to be calm, to accept it, like whatever information you're about to see, be calm, be in a calm state to receive it. Because if you don't prepare yourself and you just open it and all of a sudden all this information floods your brain, that's it. It's going to take over. All of a sudden you're going to start worrying, panicking, right? The anxiety is going to rise. Not good. So what I always say is, before you open the pool sheet, close your eyes, right? Put your hand on your heart and take a couple long deep breaths. Like literally just like 3 good deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth, right? Like 3, 4 times to make sure you're fully calm. And then tell yourself, you know what? No matter what I see on this pool sheet, I am safe, I am calm, and I am capable. Okay. Just to prepare yourself, like, because you have to be your own biggest fan in many ways. Prepare your nervous system to be calm. And then remind yourself that you are safe, you are capable, no matter what you're about to see, that you are capable of fencing your best. So then you open the pool, and then when you look, if you're already in a much calmer state, it's going to be much easier to receive that information. So that's my first advice is always prepare your nervous system before you look at pools or DEs to be in a calm state so that the information doesn't just flood you and take over your body. Be ready and be in control. Like you are in control. And as this information is coming to you, you're already calm. And you reminded yourself already that it doesn't matter who's in the pool, that you know who you are as a fencer, as a competitor, that you are capable, you trust yourself. So that's the first thing. The second thing is to get good sleep. Absolutely so important. You have to get a good night rest. And so if you're having trouble sleeping, I would really recommend doing some heavy, deep breathing exercises as you're falling asleep. And you could look these up. I mean, there's the ones that I usually do, deep breathing is that really put me in this like, kind of sleepy state is you breathe in through the nose and then you hold it and then you breathe in on top of that even more and then long exhale. And like you do that 5, 10 times. And I promise you, if you do that intentionally as you're laying there, you are going to get tired and sleepy. It is going to put you in that really relaxed state because it activates your parasympathetic system, which allows you to relax, brings that anxiety down, and allows you to fall asleep. But if you're having trouble, like if you're so nervous, so anxious, like you have to do this, and you have to kind of almost like force yourself to lay down and breathe and breathe. Maybe put on some like meditative music in the background, some like, yeah, like meditation music to help you relax, get you in that relaxed state, and then breathe to put you in a sleepy state, because it's important. Like if you don't do that and you don't get enough good sleep, it's going to affect how you fence. So doing the things that you need to do to help you get in that state, very important. Then the next morning, same thing. I mean, it's, when you wake up, you have to fuel your body. And I get it. Maybe you don't need to eat a big breakfast, but you need to get something, like at least some protein in your body, right? For fuel. And so again, I would recommend doing a full reset in the morning. So doing the deep breath, grounding yourself, like really bringing yourself to the present moment, focusing on what you want, what's inside that bubble with you, that you're going to trust yourself, that you're going to commit to your actions, and just breathing. I mean, really, at the end of the day, that's like my answer to a lot of this is breath work. Breath work is so important. The more that you work with your body, your nervous system through breath, the calmer you can be, and the more present that you could train yourself to be through grounding techniques, the more that you can calm yourself, bring that anxiety down, and allow yourself to do the things you need to in order to put yourself in the best position to prepare for the tournament. So things like fueling your body, hydrating. The reason you say you're not able to, because your body is in that heightened state of nervousness, anxiety, alert, right? So first bring that down, calm yourself through breath, through grounding, and then go into, then focus. Okay, I need to fuel my body, even a little bit, even like yogurt or something, right? A piece of egg or a boiled egg, something to fuel your body, but do fuel your body, and then go and, have a great warm up, stretch, do your thing, and really come to the first spot of your pools feeling really warmed up and ready to go.
I also think that there is another side of this state, because as I said previously, it used to happen to me every single time, but then suddenly there was just a total absence of any emotions. I'm just entering the hole, I don't feel nothing, and I fencing like it's don't matter for me at all. And I think it's also a bad, because I just simply couldn't fire up my body. So like the fencing means nothing to me, and I lose every time. So I think this nervous adrenaline, this excitement, a little bit, but should be to just to keep your body in this state.
You're saying that it's important to have it there for, yes.
It's the mood, I think, yeah.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's important that it's there because you care, right? Because so yes, it needs to be there, because if you didn't care, if you didn't, if you weren't passionate, why even be there? So absolutely, it's important to have a little bit of that feeling of like anxiety, that, it's important to feel that pressure too, because it means something, and because you care. So the goal is not to eliminate that. It's more just to learn to work with it instead of letting it work against you. And my other thing that I will say to that point, Eugene, is I would recommend reframing it, right? So instead of saying, and I say this to all my fencers, instead of saying I'm nervous, say I'm excited. I'm excited to compete, and my body is preparing me to compete. So because inside our bodies, the feeling of nervousness and the feeling of excitement they have the exact same manifestations, physically, like the heartbeat racing, right? The adrenaline, all of those things, that the butterflies in our stomach that we feel, they're all manifestations of nervousness and excitement. Like they manifest in the same way. The difference is the meaning that we assign to it with our mind. So when we say I'm nervous, it creates sort of like a negative connotation. Then it becomes this like bad thing, like, oh no, like it makes us feel worse. However, if we instead channel that and focus on the fact that, no, I'm actually excited. What I'm feeling in my body right now is excitement. I'm excited to compete. And the reason I feel these things is my body is preparing me to compete. If you frame it that way, it has a positive connotation. It'll actually help you. So yes, it's important to feel those things, that excitement, the nerves, but reframe it in a positive way and work with it instead of allowing it to work against you. That would be my big thing.
So let's talk about the psychological side of results. It, again, also happened to me. When you reach the top 4, securing a guaranteed medal, sometimes psychologically you feel like you achieve at least something, and then you lose your next bout for the top 2. Why is it happening? Where can I get more motivation for the gold medal?
If you already tell yourself beforehand that you're good with bronze, well then, your mind's like, okay, like you told me we're good with bronze, so why are we going to fight more? So I think it's important to really connect to like to set a goal for yourself in advance, right? Like to know what it is that you want. I mean, if truly like if you're okay with third, then like, and if you feel in your body like, oh, like if this sense of relief, like I'm good, well, then naturally your mind and body is going to follow. Like then you're not going to try as hard for the next bout, right? If you're already content with what you've got. So I think it's a matter of like really having that inner talk with yourself. Like what is it that you want? What is it that you're after? Now, how can I answer this? So, if you're the other thing I was going to say is a lot of times what happens, what I've seen happen to fencers is they make it to top four, right? They get to that level and they're so excited. They're like, yeah, they're so happy. A lot of times they're almost like shocked or surprised that they made it that far. And so they're like on this like emotional high, right? They're like really excited, very emotionally elated. And then by the time the next bout comes, they haven't brought themselves back down to earth yet because they're still up here, that they're not really present. Again, it's all about that attention, right? Where their attention is, where their focus is. They're still riding that wave of like winning the previous bout, getting to top four, that they're like so hyped up that, that's another skill I would recommend mastering is being able to like, okay, great, you did good, like good job making top four, but now bring yourself back down to this bout and let's refocus again the way that you always focus for every bout, right? Like bring your attention right back, be present, reset, commit, decide, trust, be fully present in this bout and really being able to calm yourself, like bring your emotional state back down to competition mode. Your job is not done yet. If you are okay, if you go in there and you think, man, if I make top four today, that's awesome. Like that's what I'm after. Then by all means, that's fine. Great. Good for you, right? Maybe that's what you wanted. You achieved it. Awesome. But if you go, if you want to go as far as you want to go, right, all the way to the end, then you have to understand that, yes, it's great. Like if you make it to top four, you're going to be excited and, on this high. But by the time you're about to make it to top two comes, you have to master the ability to bring yourself right back down, back to baseline, regroup, refocus, recenter yourself, and back to the next touch, next action, like fresh bout, fresh start, literally reset, like clean slate, fresh start, new bout. And it's a skill that, it takes practice but you have to be able to do it. I've seen many fencers have that happen where even like they make top 8 in the US, top 8 gets medals. So they'll make top 8, they'll be so excited. And then by the time the top 4 bout comes, they just completely blow it, because they're still so excited about the previous win. And then they're not fully present and focused and committed in this next bout the way that they need to be in order to be able to win that next bout. And so it's bringing your attention, learning how to come back down, how to bring your emotions down, and then also like having a clear idea in your mind of what is it that you want. Are you after third place? Is that good enough for you? Then great. Or are you actually after the championship, right? Are you after the title? Are you after the first place? Because that's where, when you understand, when you've clear goals, you have a clear understanding what end result you're after, that's where you have to walk yourself. Like your job is not done. Like I always tell fencers, when they're winning, for example, like if they're losing, or I'm sorry, if they're winning, let's say 12-9, a lot of fencers will say to me, well, I kind of stopped trying because I thought I'm winning. So like, like I'm okay, right? And so a lot of times they'll stop trying and all of a sudden the other fencer starts catching up. And then they start panicking and sometimes they lose because they relax too much. So I always say, you're just because you're winning, your job isn't done yet. The bout is not over until you score that last touch, until it gets to 15. So don't stop trying just because you're in the lead and you're up a certain amount of points, you're winning. Like don't stop trying. Like get into the mindset of thinking like, oh, I'm good. Like it's in the bag. Your job is not done. The race isn't over yet. Finish the race and then relax, then celebrate, but don't stop until the end. And so the same principle here, right? If you're okay with finishing the race at third place, then, then it is what it is. But if you're after the entire thing, like if you want to go all the way to first place, win the whole thing, well, then you need to train yourself to stay even keeled, right? So like you got it to fourth, great. You're like excited, you're happy, whatever. And then by the next bout, bring yourself right back down, refocus, reset, and onto the next touch, onto the next bout.
That's good advice. Having a good results is always a great feeling, but What if you're training for months but seeing no improvement on the podium? And this leads to total exhaustion and leads to the state of burnout. I simply don't want to go to practice. How to overcome this lack of motivation to train due to a long-term lack of results?
Yeah, no, I know it's tough because that happens to, I mean, it happens to so many of us, people, athletes, fencers. It's tough. So burnout, I just want to clarify, is not laziness. Okay. Burnout happens because of like accumulated disappointment. Like you keep working, like you said, you keep, hoping, keep going, keep falling short. And so eventually what happens is you stop protecting yourself from disappointment. You just stop caring, which then that's what leads to the burnout, to lack of motivation. Instead of asking, so a better question to ask, instead of how do I get motivated? I would recommend asking, what made me fall in love with fencing to begin with? Like, why did I fall in love with fencing in the first place, right? Why? Go back to like reconnect with your purpose, reconnect to like go all the way to the beginning. Don't force motivation. It never works that way. You have to reconnect with the why. And, there's always, what I would recommend is if you really truly feel burnt out and, take a break, like take a step back. Take a break. You could take a week off or even 2 weeks off. It's not going to do anything. And maybe use that time to really reconnect with why you started to begin with, right? Why you started in the first place. Like something made you fall in love with fencing. There's a reason why you took this sport, why you started, why you worked all the way up until this point. And so oftentimes it's just all our bodies and minds need sometimes is just this moment, this rest, recovery, right? And reconnection with purpose, and just coming back with a refreshed sense of self and sense of purpose, sense of understanding, like, what are we after? Because so often, like, we chase the results, we chase the medals, chase this, chase that. We forget to enjoy the sport that we love. We forget why we do it. We forget to focus on the joy that it brings us, like what it's taught us. I mean, fencing for me, fencing made my life. It gave me discipline, time management, right? Passion, dedication, all these incredible gifts that I'll forever be thankful for. And so, but there was a time in my life too, where I was burnt out, where I felt disappointed. I felt like nothing was working and I just wanted to quit, but I very much always went back to, how much I loved it and all the positives that it was bringing to me, all the gifts that it was giving me, right? And I just really worked hard at reconnecting with that purpose, reconnecting with my love for it, allowing myself to step back, take a break, just kind of reset, literally like a reset, take a break, and then coming back with maybe a new perspective, a new goal, a new approach, all the while keeping in mind the reasons why you love it and all the good things that it already has given you and brought into your life. So that's my advice is I would say, instead of trying to force the motivation and asking, how do I get motivated? Reconnect back with the purpose. What made you fall in love with it in the first place?
That's great. Also, I think we should to feel this sense of progress sometimes. Maybe we should, instead of a big results, track some smaller daily metrics, like to set goals, like daily goal for the training to achieve that. So we can feel this sense of progress.
I agree, Eugene. I think that's for sure. That's everything. In fact, I always recommend to all my athletes, my students, don't focus on results. Even in practice, don't worry about winning or the score. Focus on being intentional. Like, what are you training? Like, what are you training tonight, for example? Tonight, why don't you train really committing to your actions? Go in there and focus on really committing to every action that you do. Whatever, like you want to attack, commit to the attack, do the attack fully. You want to practice your parry riposte, commit to the parry riposte and really work on doing it with commitment and confidence. And then when you walk out of practice, look back and ask yourself, how much did you commit, right? Did you really commit? And track your success and your progress based on that. How much am I committing? How much am I resetting? Right? How much am I trusting myself? So you're absolutely right. Focusing on, I call them process goals. Like process goals, the process of, your growth, your journey. Focus on that instead of focusing on the results. And same with tournaments. I mean, that's what ultimately the bubble that I told you about, that's what it is, right? Is I ask fencers at tournaments to focus on just the things that are inside that bubble. That's it. Don't focus on results, on medals, on rankings, on placement, expectations. None of those things are going to help you. Focus instead on, are you staying present for every touch? Are you really present in the moment? Are you really committing to your actions, right? Are you deciding your actions thoughtfully? Are you resetting after every touch, and especially after mistakes, right? Are you keeping yourself present and calm? Are you trusting yourself? Like those are the things that I ask my fencers to focus on all day at the tournament, because those I truly believe are the things that actually drive results. When we focus on those things, that's when we can show up as our best selves, show the best fencer that we can be. Whereas if we focus on the outcome, the results, all of those things, then we're not really present, right? And we're only going to make it harder on ourselves. We're going to make that pressure feel bigger, more overwhelming. We're going to crumble more often than not because we're focusing on the bigger beast as opposed to focusing on these steps in front of us that will actually help us get to where we want to get to. I'm with you on that. Process goals over outcome goals all day, every day.
All right. And for the end, I want to talk about this bubble state, or how do you call it?
Strip bubble.
Lately, I came across some article from students of Romanian university, and they call it the flow state. Flow is the optimal psychological state in which an athlete achieves their best performance without effort, but with total concentration and a sense of total control without any such thoughts. Flow is often associated with high level of performance, self-consciousness is diminished, and attention is entirely focused on the activity at hand. And my mom she is also a coach, and she is studying this flow state. So she is really into psychology, and she says that this flow state, it's all about you and your opponent. So it's again like a bubble. It's not about the who behind your back. It's only you and your opponent. And in this state, fencers becomes Olympic champions, world champions. So how to achieve this state? Is it just a random feeling that comes to you in a random day, or you can train it?
I definitely think you could train it. I absolutely think you could train it. It's not some, miracle thing that just happens or doesn't. You can absolutely train it with intention. It's, the way you do it, you create it. So I believe there's 3 things that you need for flow state. You have to have the ability to stay present, fully present, right? In the moment. You have to have the ability to really be committed, fully committed, and being able to adapt one touch at a time. So that's what I really believe are like the 3 ingredients necessary. I mean, that quote that you wrote is beautiful and it's right on. But the way that I relate it to fencing is like, number 1, complete presence. So focusing all your attention on just this touch, this one touch, not the score, not the last mistake, right? Not the next bout, but this touch in front of me. What does this touch need from me? That's first step. The second thing is full commitment. Flow requires decisive action. No half commitment, no hesitating, no second guessing, deciding, committing, living with the outcome. So whether the action works out or not, complete commitment keeps you in flow state. Okay? Because it's this this belief, this overpowering belief and sense of trust in yourself, that when you have that, you commit fully. That's what allows you to stay in flow. And then the right level of challenge. So when the challenge stretches you but doesn't overwhelm you. So if it's too easy, you get bored. If it's too hard, you become anxious, right? So the sweet spot is, this is hard, but I know I can handle it. This is where growth and peak performance happen. So basically, flow state to me as a fencer, you need full presence, full commitment, and the ability to be adaptive, meaning to stay curious, keep solving the problems and adjusting each touch instead of judging yourself, continuing to adjust. So if I were to summarize it, flow isn't something you find, it's something you can create by staying present, committing fully, and adapting one touch at a time. That's my advice. And how can you train this? For sure, using my reset tool that I taught. The reset allows you to be fully present, the ability to commit to your action, and then to have this one touch mentality, adapt one touch at a time. When those 3 things come together, you could really create that flow state for yourself. So practicing that consistently will allow you to just know how to turn it on when you go to tournaments.
Okay, I'll try in my next tournament.
What weapon do you fence?
Épée.
Épée?
Yeah.
Cool. Yes, please do. Let me know how it goes.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So I've got no more questions. If you want to say more, please.
Sure. Yeah, I guess I wrote down here like I just to speak on, because I'm a mindset coach, right? So what's the biggest mindset mistake that I think fencers make? I think that for me, what I've seen over, overall coaching all these athletes that I've coached is athletes often think that mental toughness means never feeling nervous, never feeling frustrated, disappointed, or scared. But truly, mental toughness is feeling all of those things and still choosing where to place your attention. Remember, that's been like my theme this whole time is attention. So the athlete who controls attention controls performance. So it's this message of like really master your ability to control where your attention goes. And as long as you learn to keep your attention with yourself, to focus on, am I calm? Am I present? Am I focused on the next touch? Am I focused on committing to my next action? If you can master the ability to stay right here in this bubble with yourself, that's going to make a world of a difference. Instead of letting your attention wander there, and everywhere else where it's not going to help, right? Staying right here inside this bubble with you, as we said, flow state, right? Fully present, fully committed, fully adaptable, one touch at a time. If you can do that, you can master your mental strength, mental toughness. So that's kind of my closing message.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for all the advices. I got a big amount of information to process. So thank you. Thank you so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
The biggest opponent you have to defeat is yourself.
Absolutely. Right here. Absolutely.
Thank
But then
you
once you learn to master it, it becomes your best friend,
Yeah.
That's where
And your biggest weapon.
Yes, exactly. Your competitive edge. Absolutely. The fencer who masters this is always going to dominate any other fencer that has not worked on his mind. So absolutely. It's half the battle. Your body is one half, your mind is the other half. That's why I'm so passionate about coaching it.
That's cool. Thank you for this incredible conversation. Hope we're gonna present this as a good content for our audience.
Yeah. Thank you, Eugene. Thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation. Thank you for the great questions too. That was a lot of fun.